Night of the Dead is a pretty good zombie survival game, more so for the multiplayer experience, but is it one of the best zombie survival games out there, or can you find better? Well, let me tell you about my experience of this game. The first thing you do is you create a character. You can create male or female and customize that character, occupation and traits. Though I do warn you, if you select left-handed, your person will still hold things in the right hand. So the way this game starts is you wake up in a lab and you have to get out of that lab in order to get out into the world. You'll get various different missions and little objectives along the way, and then you'll get a companion that follows you and gets in the way all the time. And when I say all the time, I don't mean Skyrim or, Fallout style companion getting in the doorway sort of thing. I mean every time you try to swing your axe at a tree, they stand in the way. They literally have a death wish. Once you get out into the world in this game, then it's just open free for all. You can do your mission based things if you want to, you can follow the tutorial, or you can just go off and do what you want. This game has crafting, it has zombies, it has weapons, it has base building. It has pretty much everything that you need for a zombie survival game. So let's start off with the crafting. When it comes to crafting, you can craft a lot of different types of weapons and tools in order to gather materials. You can also craft things like armor and other things as well, which is kind of useful as you progress through the game. One of the first things that the tutorial will take you through will be crafting things like a basic axe and a pickaxe, and then things like a bow and arrow. The bow and arrow is kind of questionable when it comes to usefulness. But later in the game you can craft things like weapons and guns and things like that, which we'll cover in a skill tree a little bit later on. So you crafted your weapons, you crafted everything you need, and then you can get into vehicles. There are little like mopedy bikes that you can ride, and this gives you the ability to travel faster. You'll then go around and find a spot where you want to build a base, and this is the more important part of the game, is the base building and the way it works. Everything requires for you to gather certain materials, and it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to find the materials you want. Like for example iron, it's not necessarily clear what iron is until you eventually find one that gives you iron, then you got to remember what it looks like. One of the good features in this is that when you actually gather iron or rock and you hit it with a pickaxe, it breaks off into pieces, which is quite interesting, apart from the fact when some of these pieces stay in place and you keep hitting the same piece, which doesn't actually make you hit the rock that you're trying to break. This can be frustrating in a way that you don't actually make progress on breaking a rock, and you have to kind of walk around it in order to hit different parts of it, avoiding the debris essentially. Once you've gathered the rocks and the iron and the wood and the things you need, including plant fibers of course, then you have the ability to then start building your base. Now base building in this game works in the way that you place things down, you can hold a button to snap to other pieces. You also have the ability to lower and raise the pieces as well, giving you a bit more freedom on the way that you create your base. Once you've created the foundation and you put the steps up to your base, then you can look at doing walls and windows and doors. It's something I didn't get to in this part of the gameplay. I started focusing on following the tutorial a bit more, where I was creating different workbenches to create different things, and this is where it gets really interesting. This is not just a game about gathering materials and building stuff, you actually have to refine things into certain things. So you'll need to get wood in order to make lumber, in order to make planks, in order to make certain things for your base. This means that there is a very kind of strong production line that exists within this game, which means that essentially you have to go through the steps to create things. This would be much more interesting if you were playing it online with friends, obviously, and it would kind of speed up the process. As for when you're playing single player, it can be a little bit frustrating and kind of slow down the way that you progress when it comes to building your base. So you have things for your base, and you can put things like a sleeping bag or a bed and things to rest, as well as that being a respawn point as well. You also have things like traps and towers and things that you can use in order to fend off zombies that come for your base. Now when you start out the game, you can choose the size of the hordes. I opted to put the horde size down to 50 because I had a feeling that I would suffer and die. And essentially the way it works is that when you get to nighttime in this game, hordes come after you, and if you left it at the default 200, you're going to have 200 zombies coming to get you at night time. And this could be an absolute nightmare if you haven't built up a base with enough traps in time. And if you're playing in single player, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to actually build your base and build traps in time to be able to survive. Obviously there are zombies wandering around, and you do have the ability at the start of the game to select an option to stop zombies from respawning, which can be a bit more realistic, but if you want to keep fighting zombies all the time, obviously allow them to respawn. This will not stop the horde at night though, that will always come for you no matter what. So now you've got your base built and you've got your traps in place and you've got things set up with your workbenches. Now you can look at things like your companion, for example. When it comes to your companion, you have the ability to craft things and give it to them. You can't equip them directly with weapons, but if you give them a weapon, they will generally equip it themselves. When you try to equip the character with a weapon, it will say that they will autonomously do it on their own. You can obviously equip them with melee weapons. You can also give them things like a bow and arrows, and they will then equip that and use that. When it comes to armor, obviously when you craft armor and you give it to your companions, you can then equip that directly to them so that they wear it. The map in this game is also very large and there's a lot of places to go. There's cities and other places near where you start, so you do have the ability to go into places and search for materials and gather things like food from shops and things like that. So I went around searching some shops and came across some really weird things like zombies basically in stocks, and it's kind of weird. So obviously with a huge map available, it gives you the ability to go around into cities and things and potentially even build your base near to other buildings, or even fortify buildings that already exist in order to create a defensible building without having to build it from scratch. And like I said before, this is definitely a game that will be a much more fun playing with a group of friends, because it would make it a lot easier and more streamlined to build things and have people gather things, you know, essentially have someone gathering rocks and wood while other people are building and crafting things, and then someone else building a base. And finally, that brings us to the skill tree section. There are various different skill trees available for different things that you can add skills to as you level up. You do get level up by essentially getting experience by collecting things, picking things up, killing zombies and everything like that. So you get experience all the time while you're building things, but you can also get research points in order to research certain skills. Things that will allow you to, for example, chop wood faster in order to gather wood or rocks or other things like that, as well as like certain things to do with fighting or the way that your weapons work. There's a very large amount of skills in this game. I think it might possibly be a bit too over the top when it comes to skills, but it covers pretty much everything, which gives you the ability to create the character that you want to create rather than kind of be stuck to one type of character. This is also why multiplayer would make more sense, because you could have friends that essentially specialize in gathering things when you specialize in more defensible stuff. Overall, the game is a little bit rough around the edges, though it is just out of early access. It's just version 1.0 literally came out, 31st of May. Hopefully the developers will continue to update the game and add things to it in order to improve it. Like I said, I think it's the sort of game that would be fun with friends. Solo play, maybe not so much, and it is a bit kind of long-winded the way you have to build things. It's a game that I could recommend if you enjoy multiplayer games with your friends. As a solo experience, it is kind of a fun game, but it will get boring very fast. So there's probably other games out there that you would probably more likely want to buy instead and put your time into rather than this game. So for that reason, as a solo experience, I can't necessarily recommend this to anyone that would like a survival game that's a zombie survival, because there are better solo experiences out there like State of Decay 2, for example, and Project Zomboid or Humanity, for example, which I so happen to have done a review on, which I'll put up at the end of the video so you can go and watch that one next. I am on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and it's quite a long road, so if you do like my content, you've enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. Like it as well if you want to, you know, it's up to you. If you don't like it, hit the like button twice, you know. And get down in the comments and let me know if this is the kind of game that you would play, or if you're interested in it, or maybe if you played any of the other zombie games that I recommend for you to play next, which would be Humanity up here, which is a really good survival game, so go check out that video if you want to know about that game. Or check out Infection Free Zone up there, which is a colony management game that actually uses the map of an area that you choose, so it could be where you live. Other than that, thank you for watching my video. I've been Lycan from Green Lycan Reviews, and I'll see you in the next one.